Dragon Riders, Kaze no Kaeru, by Night Dragon Zero. Jade's perspective. The sun shone on my face, arousing me. It was streaming in through several cracks in the ceiling. This cavern I'd found was small, but partially concealed as well. I was using this area as a temporary home, resting before carrying on with my journey west. I had to be cautious, though. Humans sometimes came to the caves and surrounding areas. Where there were humans, I knew I couldn't stay for long. I certainly had no desire to be added to their collection of slaves. There was a decent amount of prey here, and I generally had my fill. Still, I knew the time had come for me to move on. I stretched my muscles a little, deciding that there was time for one last meal. I swiftly stopped and lay still when I heard the fluttering of wings. By some luck, a couple of Pidgey had chosen a branch just outside my cavern on which to roost. Ah, the meal comes to me, I chuckled happily. However, the pair had begun discussing something that made me hesitate and listen. You heard about the Charizard in these parts? One asked. The Spearow are talking all about it, but I don't really trust them, his companion replied. Those bird brains couldn't tell a Charizard from a Charmander. But what if they're right? The first continued. Anyway, it should be moving west, just like the others they talk about. What others? Oh, haven't you heard anything? They say that many Charizard head west of here, towards a high mountain range with fierce winds and harsh grounds. They say there lies a hidden valley, a sacred place where only the mightiest Charizard may live. Oh, it was that one. The story about the Valley of the Charizard? Yeah, seems like this Charizard may not make it if he's into hiding so much. All the time, I had been slowly creeping closer and closer. I was practically right beneath them as they continued their discussion. Well, for all you know, he could be right under our beaks. Indeed, I roared, pouncing. I gave both of them the benefit of a swift death, a couple of bites and a quick swallow. Information tidbits, I laughed to myself. I had some firm directions now. I most certainly deserved that place. I would certainly go then to this Characific Valley, to join the most powerful of my brethren. Night Slice's perspective. This is it seems, I commented, shining my torchlight. Union Cave. Boy, sure is creepy at night, Hazuki said, shivering. We just had to come out at midnight, didn't we? Whether it was from fear or from the cold night air, I couldn't tell. You can go back to the Pokemon Center if you want to, Hazuki. No way! I can do whatever you can! She lowered her voice to a whisper. Whether you're a Pokemon god or not. In the 2 weeks I'd spent traveling with her, Hazuki had proven to be quite capable of handling herself. It was a little hard for her to get used to my story at first, but after a few more demonstrations, she was convinced. Hazuki was a prodigy at picking up on Pokemon language too, making communicating with the rest of the party easier. I'd made it a point to avoid larger cities and towns, stopping only at smaller ones or outlying motels. I still feared that I had other enemies on my tail, but surprisingly, nothing had come up during my journey so far. I'd pretty much expected Alagard to show up, or a bunch of military guys to try capturing me for lab experiments, or even Team Rocket, but there'd been nothing. Unfortunately, that only served to make my bad feeling worse. I had my own personal quest, however, and I could let nothing deter me from that. Alright then, stay close. I looked over to the Pokemon. You too, guys. Right! Ashura, Luminar, and Riptide nodded. Following the glow of the fox-shaped pendant, I led the way through the dark cave. It was a maze of tunnels, with various Pokemon like Sandshrew and Diglets running about. Fortunately for us, they did their best to avoid our lights and left our party alone. Even in human form, I still had a pretty decent night vision. That was how I spotted the concealed entrance leading down. As I shone my torchlight down into the hole, a swarm of Zubat suddenly emerged from it. Hazuki screamed, startling the rest of us as well. Calm down, I growled. It's just a bunch of Zubat. Yeah, don't worry. She forced a nervous smile. The glowing light in the center of the pendant formed an arrow that pointed downwards. Ashura, I need you to lower me down there. No problem, the Ivysaur replied. Are you sure it's safe, Yurokuro? Hazuki asked. She'd gotten used to addressing me by my human alias that I'd come up for myself. I've done some things worse than jumping down into holes, I assured, as Ashura wrapped his vines around my waist. I guess, she nodded, stepping away. Hazuki backed into a wall by mistake, causing an Ekans to drop down onto her shoulder. Ekans! The snake hissed. Hazuki's face went bluish-white. Ah! Help! 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 Get it off me! Help me! She yelled wildly, throwing the snake off and running around in circles. With a scream like that, she could wake the dead, Luminar said, cringing. Yeah, no kidding, Riptide agreed. Okay, fun's over. Let's get moving. I waved to get everyone's attention. Hey, phew, you're not gonna comfort me after that ordeal? Hazuki panted, with her hands on her knees. Oh, really? Hey, Luminar, go give her a nice long licking. With pleasure, the Jolteon grinned. No, I'll be... Ugh! Luminar pounced on her and started kissing her face. Stop it! That tickles! Hey, Luminar! When that was done, Ashura lowered me down into the hole. It didn't turn out to be very deep, but as I examined the area around it, the pendant pointed down into another hole. It's not deep, so you guys can jump down, I called back to my friends. But it looks like we'll be doing quite a bit of climbing. Our party descended 3 levels down before arriving at a huge underground lake. The place looked practically ancient, like nature had taken great pains to conceal it from trespassers. This lake has never seen the sun for thousands of years, Riptide commented. Wow, Hazuki gasped. Looks like it stretches all the way out beneath the Union Cave. Well, time I went for a little swim. I threw off my vest and shirt and started doing a few stretches. But don't you know what they say about swimming in dark waters like this? Hazuki asked. Oh, what they say about monsters at night? Peh, they're only fairy tales your mothers tell you so you don't go swimming at night. But I'm a professional. Yeah, right, Riptide muttered. Shut up, I whispered to him. Anyway, Hazuki, I need you to wait here with Ashura and Luminar to look after our equipment. All right, I can do that, she nodded. Riptide, let's go. Together with the Golduck, we dove into the dark waters and begun swimming across the underground lake. Suddenly, I heard Hazuki scream. What is it? I asked, trapping water and holding my position. There was something there, she cried, pointing the flashlight at some spot in the water. I was more than 10 feet from shore, and Riptide was much further on, being able to swim faster than me. What? I asked, turning over when she shone the light. It was moving the light around and I saw a shadow, she insisted. But it's gone now. You're really seeing things, kid, Luminar growled. It really was there! I saw it! I frowned. Luminar, keep a lookout, I ordered. I continued on for a while more until Hazuki cried out again. I definitely saw it that time, she said, pointing her flashlight. You know what? I think she might be right, Luminar muttered. Something stinks, Ashura commented. Look there to your left, Hazuki pointed. I turned my head and saw nothing at first. However, I then noticed the bubbles that were rising to the surface. They stopped after a while. I heard a soft splash from behind and turned round to see the water stirring slightly. Riptide? I called out. Over here, he replied. The Golduck was far away from my position. I was genuinely scared now. If it wasn't him that made the splash, then who was it? Or what? There is something in there, Luminar growled. Really? Ashura nodded. Riptide, can you see it? I asked. No, it's pitch black underwater, he said. Go psychic, I told him. Good idea. I'll just... Yeah! The Golduck was suddenly dragged underwater. Riptide! Riptide! While everyone else was screaming, I was nearly paralyzed with fear. It wasn't so much of the enemy, but rather of the element of the unknown. Get out of the water! Hazuki screamed. Adrenaline was pumping into my system. Every instinct was telling me to run, or in this case, swim for it. But my sense of honor told me that I couldn't leave Riptide to the mercy of that monster. I silently cursed myself for leaving my sword back on shore. Ignoring my better judgment, I swam towards the flight. With all the water and splashing everywhere, it was impossible to see anything. Suddenly, Riptide was thrown out of the water. The stunned Golduck lay on a rocky outcropping and lay still, leaving me alone in the water. The creature abruptly went back underwater instead of coming for me. I floated there in the middle of the lake, waiting for it to surface. Several uneasy moments passed. The suspense was absolutely killing me. Hazuki was shining the light around, trying to help find it. Luminar and Ashura were yelling for me to get back to shore. Riptide was still unconscious. Finally, I managed to get my muscles to move, and I started swimming like I was in the Olympic Games. Then a black shape arose in front of me. Holy sh... I never got to complete that before being shoved underwater. I forced my eyes open, only to see the pitch blackness of the water. I reached out blindly and surprisingly grabbed onto something. It was the scaly neck of the monster. Apparently, it felt me too, and began struggling and trying to shake me off. I held on for all I was worth, at the same time pushing myself up towards the head. My lungs were already screaming from the lack of oxygen. I took a chance and pushed myself forward. I thank God that I caught it on its lower jaw. Its head wasn't really too big, and I was able to, without much difficulty, wrap my legs around its jaws. I ended up wrestling it like the crocodile hunter on TV. It surfaced occasionally during the struggle, allowing me to catch my breath. Everyone was screaming at once, but I couldn't make out anything. "Hold on, buddy!" Riptide's telepathic voice was a welcome turn of events. "I'm coming!" There was more splashing as the Golduck joined in the fray. It was a tag team underwater wrestling match. "Luminar!" I heard Hazuki say as my head went above water. "Thunder attack!" "Thunder? What? Don't do that!" Then I felt the electrical charge of the lightning elemental